So we were gonna do the talk about starting to maybe really map out the expectations and benchmarks for the kids.
Okay.
I mean, basically, if you look at it, like, if a kid comes in at 2, they've got a year of Missy, a year of Robbie, and then 2 years of Dee Dee. And if we did kind of like, then subdivide that, that gives us like 8
Years. Oh, no,
8 levels, right? And I think if the like transition ones, if we just try to like meet expectations and like the expectations that you have for your kids, like the benchmarks you've set up, and kind of like what they expect the kids to come in, the skills they expect to come in having, and not really academic, because the curriculum kind of covers the academics for the most part, but some of those little transition things like counting or free writing for Dee Dee, gets tough. So maybe like basically in Missy for like some of the fine motor skills or behavior, where do you kind of like want them to land before they leave Missy?
For Missy, like maybe just to be able to, what's wrong? Sorry,
What's
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
Can we use Robbie one? Is it okay to move laptop?
Yeah. Can I go do that?
Yeah. For the 8. Sure.
Sorry.
Oh, there's
It's good.
okay.
But I think for Missy, just to be able to listen and follow simple instructions, basic classroom instructions, I think.
Yeah. Especially for Ren.
For like the bigger kids as well, like the older kids. I mean, I don't expect the 2-year-olds to really listen.
Sure. But then I guess that would be their like entrance, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, 6 months in, a year in, like, are there any kind of real benchmarks that you'd want to see those kids hitting when it comes to just paying attention and listening?
Motor skill
Or motor skills?
More motor skill.
Yeah, because the other stuff is kind of just,
Nothing.
and you can't really control it when they're 2 years old, right?
I mean,
like some kids are going to be mature enough to sit and some kids aren't.
Yes. So maybe I think for me it's just the motor skill really. Like cutting, which I think I should
Pencil grip,
yeah.
which is very soft.
most of them.
Or maybe, let's wait for Miss Vanessa.
I mean, like comparing the worksheets before and the worksheets now, it's actually, we have less, because you know how like we see people change everything, like, all the worksheets, she just like, I don't want to do this anymore, so let's try doing more on like the vocal, like verbal kind of thing, but actually I don't know, like for me, I mean like verbal skill actually comes like later. Because in Missy Mouse, I'm actually impressed that over the years, like I'm not gonna like in Missy Mouse, you hear them talk, but not really talk. It's just like the words that they hear, like from you, from teachers, or like the everyday term that I use.
So
Sentences that they
more
hear.
just comprehension
More
than it
just
is
like
generation.
comprehension, and then like once they move up to Robbie, that's when they started talking. So for me, it's really like what they actually need to be like Missy Mouse. We need to focus more on the motor skills. So I need more activities actually. But because they changed it to like a more verbal program and less worksheets. So I can actually see the difference from the kids that I moved 5 years ago and from the kids that I moved 2 years or last year. It's actually, there's a really big difference. And I know how they are gonna, I know that they will be struggling when they move up to Robbie because they don't have motor skill.
What about, has it helped with the kind of verbal skills?
I mean like, because they're, like especially for kids who are here every day, they kind
They're
of
just
like
in the
accept
environment.
it.
Like there's not as much to teach them. They're
naturally,
just
nothing.
yeah.
So it's really just, I think they really need.
Are there ways to sneak some of that stuff
That's what I'm
into the
doing now.
curriculum,
Yeah.
or like, do you have any blocks during the day that you
I
know,
said
just like
actually
5 or
can.
10 minutes to just go, okay, let's do cutting twice a week.
Yeah,
and
For me, like I do it like it depends on their ability, or like I focus more on the kids who are actually moving to Robbie, because it doesn't make sense. Like, can you imagine having Riho doing a cutting and pasting, gluing,
No.
cutting and paste?
well, sure, and I mean
Not
like it's
really.
also just really age dependent too. So
I
could
think
it be with like 2 teachers? Could you separate
Yeah,
out into like
separate.
older and younger, and maybe take that time to focus on some of the things that the
Yeah,
curriculum now
that's
doesn't
what we
cover?
Yeah,
Like-
that's gonna be January.
That's what we did in Ali. Each morning we had 2 different, like a
Like-
table morning
and
activity
something.
and a
Yeah.
mat activity. So like we just put the little kids on the mat and then do something, because it'd be like that giraffe
Yeah.
that you saw. Like they'd be stuffing leaves
just stuffing or just
into a hole,
the
and then the kids would be doing that line tracing or
on the table.
yeah, or
Oh, yeah.
cutting or ripping newspapers.
That's gonna be me.
Same thing we do
Yeah.
for
You guys
mine.
won't get in trouble.
So
Wish me luck.
if there were for the missies,
Yeah.
things that seem, and from you guys too, like, is there anything from kids who moved into Robbie before that seems like they are a little weak or could have used a little bit more focus on?
I mean, the only with these kids is holding scissors, but I mean, I think it's just like Yui, for example,
Sure.
insane.
But at the
Yui
same
is
time,
but,
if
yeah.
if there was more chance to do cutting,
Yeah,
which
that
there
would
isn't,
be-
then maybe even kids like Yui and Sena, they
Would
might still be
have-
behind, but they would be able to do
Yeah.
some of the things that the Robbie
Yeah, and
curriculum
then like
kind of
Kaise
requires.
and Yui like pushing down with the pencil.
doing
That was a
enough.
bit, yeah, they're
Because really,
Yeah.
like in Missy Mouse before, the afternoon program focused more on motor skill. But right now, it's more on that just like building. So the whole year you're just building, you're just doing blocks, you're just doing the nut and bolt. Before, I would even like that's 25 minutes. So before, like I would cut it in like 2 parts. So the first part will be like, all right, just doing nuts and bolts like for 5 minutes or for like 8 minutes, and then the rest, let's go to the car, let's go to the table, and I have a worksheet for them. So they need to color the monkey and then color the banana, and then after they color it, they have to cut the line. So as early as like even Mona's age, I do it with them, but my finger is in like with like I
Yeah,
help
yeah.
them, and then the other kids, if they can do it on their own, they just do it on their own. So
Well,
that's
but
why
the way
they're
it should
exposed
be.
more
Yeah.
for all throughout the year. So before they actually move to Robbie, they know how to cut it.
also
And you think that worked better?
ripping paper is difficult too. Ripping for Robbies.
So,
What's changed? You don't do that no more?
no more. Less worksheets. Even the morning activity coloring book, I used to have 12 volumes of morning activity coloring book. Or like coloring and tracing. That's for morning activity. But now there's only 6. So that's why in the morning, before they come in, they don't even have playtime in the morning. They just go, they take their things out and then go straight to the table and then do their activity book. So they only have probably like 3 minutes of playtime. If they come early, then that's okay. But only 5 minutes maximum, because they come in, they just do their books. Because that's 12 books in a year. 10 pages a book.
Do the
Now it's only 6.
Have you, some of the kids who come late,
Yeah, that's another
have
thing.
you talked to the parents about like what the, like this is the ramification of coming late, that you know, if you can't come on time, it's okay, but your kid is not going to get a chance to play, and playing in the morning is important. Like if do you think if you said that to some of the parents, do you think they'd come earlier, or they just
We
have to come
tried
late?
that with Sena.
Tina said I'm late until
Yeah.
She's missing
But
one.
still, she's missing. But yeah.
All
We've
this
tried it with couple of them, like let's say example Asahi. we'll be like, alright, Miss Nerico, please tell Asai's mom that he's missing a lot of pages with his morning activity book. It's actually behind like 5 pages. So it's like, alright, so Miss Nerico mentioned it to her saying Tuesday. He'll come Wednesday early, Thursday early, Friday,
Yeah.
same time. So it's really, meh. And I came to a point where I'm like, alright, that's enough. I mean, like these, like they're adults. So if I mentioned it to them once, they should at least be able to, like, oh, okay, I need to at least, like they try, but then they lose it after a while.
So they have to complete those books within the month?
No, not a month. Those 6 books, like 60 pages, will be for a whole year.
But
And
we're
I
saying
don't
that
even
that's
start.
that's their main motor skills, their
that's
time
it.
for writing with
That's it.
pencil, yeah.
And there's
morning,
no
just the
other.
morning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just-
before like my afternoon curriculum, I have a dot to dot.
Mm.
So like the Ali, they go from dot A, Ali, Baba, Katina, Kat, D, dear, so A to Z.
What do you do now?
But Mr.
Nothing.
Jonathan, remember
What do you read
I
now?
was-
I mean like it's on building now, like
And even the one that
Play-Doh,
you made in
like
Bali,
visual
like
mats.
the giraffe.
Yeah.
It would
It's
help,
there's no, I don't know,
That's
like
why I
there's
told
no
Miss Fawn I
motor
could make
involved.
those.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll have
It's
more
just
time.
building it.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I was
So
talking
then I
to
guess
them.
the challenge is because it's kind of the same for DD with a lot of the higher like DD1s with higher level writing is in our curriculum isn't as strict as yours is. Like it's not as like regimented down to the minute, but like finding time
To squeeze it.
to squeeze it in. So maybe if there was just a way to get 5 minutes of like split differentiated motor activity time in the afternoon, if we could do it, because I think if it wasn't taking away from anything else, I don't think anybody would have any complaints. And actually, I think probably Kay would be super supportive. I think if you were finding, but
They say less paperwork.
They want less paperwork.
They want less paperwork.
But that's why
And
they
mine
did.
is
That's why
more paperwork.
that was the creation of the Alley program because they didn't. I remember that the reason for the Alley in Gordo, which never came to fruition, was because of the too much paperwork.
That's why.
That was the whole. That was the whole
Mm.
startup for Alley, because they were saying that the kids were doing too much, and they were. Like a lot of the parents were losing kids because of that. That's why I was saying like, while we are set towards an academic program,
Okay.
we're really not sometimes because they don't want that. They don't want
They don't want
to.
to.
We know what the kids want. Well, I mean, we know what the kids need, but then they don't want us to push that on them.
well, but it's tough because they also set up a lot of like
Yeah,
requirements that
yeah.
if you
That's the
don't
thing.
if you
You
don't
don't meet.
if you don't do follow these steps to get there, they're not going to be able to do it when you're saying that they should be able
So,
to.
with all that said, like, are you really heavily like you must do this like during the
Not
music part? Or can
really.
you like kind of not sneakily, but kind of go back to what works for you and you know it works for the kids? Like,
Yeah. And actually I have some of my paperworks are actually not included in the curriculum. Like
Yeah.
letter of the week, they're not supposed to be doing it, but I am doing it. And then I also have like some like math worksheets that actually the Miss K doesn't know about.
I make a lot of stuff for DD like
So
DD1,
I
like
think
a lot of like
it's-
ruler tracing and like dot to dot and cutting things. You know,
I think if
like
I can
I-
probably
we all,
sneak
yeah,
a little
because DD2, like, same thing, DD2, I do a lot of extra stuff with them, like,
with
because
them.
they're not supposed to do a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with them. Not that they're not supposed to, because it's somewhere, and they have those
They have
supplemental
those.
sheets, but I
Because
do
that
it with
was
them.
before. That's why we have the supplemental sheets.
Yeah, but so I think some of these things, like they mentioned the cutting and the like
Pencil
pencil and ripping and stuff. What about like craft? Like we've been talking recently about like
maybe we can just do.
I haven't as much recently, but instead of thinking of like what would be a good craft for this theme, starting instead with let's do a craft that involves mosaicing, or
Yeah,
let's do a
I
craft
usually-
that involves
I-
cutting.
Yeah, we usually choose crafts based on what
Motor
motor
skills.
skills we want to
Motor
work on.
skills.
Yeah.
So like, and we try to do different motor skills for different crafts.
Oh,
So like
okay.
one craft
Yeah.
is ripping. One craft even coloring.
Pairing,
You can have
like
you can have a picture
Crumpling.
and you can practice coloring different parts. Like
okay.
everyone color in the face.
Fish. Oh, like
Everyone
the hair.
color in
hair.
the hair.
Oh, okay.
Everyone So all crafts are based on motor skills.
Yeah, it seems to help. And you know,
And is that an Ali program?
No, it's just it's also the easiest way. Oh, we already did painting.
so
Let's do
do
paper.
ripping.
We already did something 2-dimensional. Let's do something 3-dimensional.
Ah, okay, then I can try that.
It seems good, and I think a lot of people like Miss Renee, especially, I think, seem like they're huge advocates of getting like two birds with one stone with an activity.
Yes.
So bringing in a little math into a craft, or bringing in some motor skills into just a regular bookwork.
Or
Like, I don't know, even if it was-
you can cut out the small pieces, but if it's a big circle, they can cut out the big circle. Or sorry, if it's or like straight lines.
Yeah.
They
like
cut
that.
out the
Some of
straight
our
lines
crafts
and then
are
you
like
cut
that.
out. Yeah.
Mm. But so maybe, trying to find some ways to kind of squeeze that into the curriculum, because like one of the reasons why I think this would be good is if we said maybe if you wanted the kids 6 months in to be able to hold scissors, and by the end of Missy
1 year.
wanted them to be able to cut independently.
At least
In-
straight lines.
Sure, but nothing complicated. But then we know, like, okay, so Taiga, he's cutting straight lines. All of our kids moving up, like right now, all of our kids moving up are cutting straight lines. In our crafts, let's focus on ripping, because they're still not having trouble with that. But if there was a few boxes to just with the kids tick, 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 and if you see almost everyone's good on this, then we don't need to focus too much.
Too much.
But that would help you guys out a lot, right?
Okay. Okay.
I think same with for the DDs.
The Robbie.
The DDs need to be able to free write. I think like for me it's not motor skills as much. Like the motor skills, I don't even mind if their writing is sloppy as long as their stroke order is correct. So I think for me it's I can help fix up sloppy writing.
Okay.
Or like
What
not
about
hitting-
tall, tail, and short.
And that's
So
Miss
the
Vanessa focuses
so
on
the
that.
stroke orders and just knowing, even if it's not actually hitting it, but if the kids do know G has a tail, B is tall.
They definitely have a
Is
concept of the
short.
lines now, I think.
But if they can do that, and if they've done some practice with
free writing.
free writing,
They understand.
which is great, I've noticed that if they come in able to do that, able to do free writing, and able to copy is something I don't know if they get too much
Copy.
like, for example, especially the old like transitioning kids from a board to a paper. So instead of
like the book title.
CAT,
The Dear
CAT.
Santa, yeah.
Yeah, or the book title.
Yeah, the book title for the book report.
Because a lot of them, they have a lot of trouble going, like, the concept of, like, this thing here on the paper, write it again, they get, but, like, from somewhere else onto the paper, they have some trouble with.
Okay.
So, like, copying onto a different paper.
I remember I even tried that at the afternoon classes. They'd write their name like this big, but then you give them the same exact lines, but a smaller size. They have no idea.
Yeah.
So like different sizes and everything. It's kind of difficult. Yeah.
The copying, I started doing that to them this month
Awesome.
for Dear Santa, and I see that Kaho, Anna, Ayuka, and Itsuki can do it with the lines. But yeah, it's a good one.
I just put my thing, sorry.
For Anna and Sena, we need to work on that one still.
In math is pretty much, if they're up with the Robbie curriculum, then math is pretty much okay. So the math stuff doesn't bother me too much. Behavior stuff too, I think is basically pretty good.
Yay.
We don't have too much problem with that, but maybe later if we do like try to write this up for Missy, maybe not, maybe it isn't
I wish
as
we have
important.
this thingy to the parents or something, because I only a joke.
Well, but I think if we did have this, written up,
Yeah, I think so.
and then during conferences, if we could say,
These are the things.
for example, like some of your kids who were late,
Yeah.
who like, look here, this is
Yeah.
most of the transitioning Missies are able to cut straight lines.
Yeah.
Your son can't. We do that in the morning, and he needs to come on time to have the time to do this work. But if we have evidence to show the parents, and even if the evidence is just kind of like a little checklist we've made for ourselves, maybe some of these parents would be swayed by evidence more than just like please come early, please come early. Because then there's you know if they can see what their child is unable to do, and that we've deemed it a necessary step to transition.
I think that should be work. Better.
So, I don't know. I think if we could maybe in January, sometime, and it doesn't need to be like finished. I think this could be like a work in progress, basically forever. Because I think we could just modify it to get it more suited to exactly what we want to do. Because we're not, again. The curriculum's good, but a lot of these things, you know, the curriculum is there and has expectations, but doesn't always have the practice necessary to get to it. So if we have these lines, and if we kind of try to follow them, the kids should have a better time. Like the kids should have an easier time. The parents should have an easier time of like understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it. And for us, we'll have a better, you know, for example, like with the crafts, if we do notice, the kids are not ripping very much, or we haven't done any ripping crafts in a long time. Maybe this week let's do a ripping and mosaic craft on a turkey if it's November, you know.
I think that works now. Okay.
It's
So-
actually also good for any other teacher rotations that might happen.
100%, because let's say like
if you have that, it's no good.
Yeah.
Like
This.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't teach you how to teach the kids. Like
Yeah.
I think that's actually a good. I like that idea.
But that is another like really good point, is that if any of us leaves, like right now I know I can trust Miss Megan and Miss Vanessa to get a lot of these things done with the Robbies before they move on to me. But I know a lot of those things aren't covered in the curriculum. And if they both left and a new teacher came in, if they don't know that, then we're going to run into problems. And
maybe a longer
Long time, yeah.
It should be.
Cause like right now our craft is like based on just like we cut, they paste, they glue.
Yeah, because we got so many kids.
Sure.
But I think
we
But
might
maybe
have to-
simpler crafts.
and then we have like a 30-minute learning, like a 45-minute learning center. 40 minutes. Learning center. So maybe we can just
Probably
try
cut some
to.
of those.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do the
Yeah.
ripping probably on the mat, and then they can bring whatever they rip on the table, and then.
Or
glue it
for
on
example,
the
if it was ripping or cutting, like for a craft,
Mm.
what if they all, instead
it
of making their own
together.
stuff,
Yeah.
they're all making it for everyone. So then
Yeah.
if like Riho can rip 3 things,
It's-
but Reiji can rip 25,
Right.
it's not like Riho's gonna have 3 on her craft and Reiji will have 25. It all goes into a pot.
Yeah.
So then everyone's getting to practice,
Yeah.
and everyone gets to practice the next step too.
Yeah.
And I usually like if it's gonna take too long, I know they can glue,
Yeah.
so they don't. But they just spent 10 minutes ripping.
Yeah.
I glue, and they just
For
put it
them.
down.
Yeah,
If it's something that's clear that
Yeah.
like, why bother?
Yeah.
Everyone can
yeah,
do it.
Yeah,
Do it.
yeah.
Okay.
If that wasn't it's gonna take too much time, and that's not the point of the
Oh.
craft. I do it.
Okay.
Or if I cut.
Coffee, I'll take a coffee.
I'm okay. Thank you.
I'm okay. Miss Vera. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. You're good. You're good. Thank you.
So, yeah, I think I think this would be helpful for all the teachers communicating with each
We're
other.
gonna write this one down, right? We're gonna end up
Well, what I think-
teacher manual soon.
Yeah. Yes.
Jonathan, I think
Because-
Amores Sando.
Yes. Because I think if we do this, if we try to by January just have a rough sketch of what we're thinking might be appropriate benchmarks and expectations, share it, make
Yeah.
one document out of it, and
Just have
then
it
just
get
move on,
shared.
and over the next 6 months or so, we can just adjust what seems like it needs adjusting. But I think it's going to help us communicate with each other. I think it's going to help the kids because we won't be wasting time on things that they don't need,
Unnecessary.
and it'll be more apparent to us the things that we do need to give them before they move.
It will be easier for us to know which one to focus on,
Yeah.
rather than wasting your time
have
with
goals.
something that, hold on, they don't need this.
So it's helping make sure that all the kids are getting what they need and not too much of things they don't
They
need.
don't-
Yeah.
It's going to help us with our planning, because then even for like, if we have it clear, and even with some big motor skill things
Motor
like
skill.
running, jumping, throwing, like if we kind of know we want them to be able to throw underhand at this point.
Why?
If they can't do it, well, let's do more throwing activities. Even
yeah.
like for zoophonics time, using the balls, but instead of putting them in, maybe practice throwing. You know, something
Okay.
like that. We can kind of direct pre-existing lesson plans towards skills that aren't really covered in the curriculum for the kids.
For the kids.
And it's going to help the parents because we can communicate clearly what our expectations are, and that can help them at home. They can help their kids at home, and also with some of the kids who maybe are late or aren't getting much support at home.
Yeah.
Just being able to show them like, this is an expectation we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
So, in maybe January, try to have like a rough, super rough thing, and we can just throw it together.
Okay.
Maybe just print out a copy for each classroom, and over the course of this next 6
Year.
months or so or a year, we can just kind of keep an eye on it,
Yeah.
see how it feels, and if some of the things we wrote were impractical,
Yeah. just
Change it.
Change it.
or if some of the things seemed like, you know, it was too simple, like actually we could push this up a little bit further.
Oh.
And then if we get it all done, I mean, I think in the future, if there was ever a time where they did want to start looking at the curriculum or thinking about what might need to
That's
change,
a good thing. Yeah.
it'd be a good thing for us to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Because we could actually bring something to the table
Mhm.
with
Right.
management and just go like, we've been working with
Yeah,
this,
with
and it
this.
makes things pretty smooth.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome.